Good afternoon to everyone, or if you're logged in from another locality, good morning or good evening. And for all you new ServiceNow customers out there, welcome to ServiceNow. So this session is titled Now Platform Security Configurables, Common Requirements, and How to Solve Them. We've loaded this presentation with a ton of high-value topics, which are super important if you are just starting off in your journey with ServiceNow. And if you are not new, this can be a great refresher as well. In this session, Will and I are going to walk through some of the common security requirements that our customers ask us about and how to solve them. And so let's first start off with some introduction. My name is John Walker. I work in customer security and trust, more specifically in our office of the CISO. I've been at ServiceNow since 2016, and prior to that, worked in a variety of roles, in and around cybersecurity and IT, from a practitioner to a security engineer and beyond. And then I came to ServiceNow as a solution consultant, and again now I'm in the office of the CISO with Will, and I'll hand it over for your introduction, Will.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Hey, appreciate everybody and your attendance today. Again, Will Brannon with ServiceNow. As Johnny mentioned, I am in the customer security and trust team as well, the office of the CISO here at ServiceNow. It's a great, exciting role for us because we're able to represent ServiceNow from a security, internal and product related out to our customers. So we get to work with customers like yourself all the time. I've been in the security industry about 23 years. I've been at ServiceNow since 2018. Like John had mentioned, I've been a practitioner as well. So kind of through the different roles. And again, look forward to discussing security and kind of how you can leverage a lot of the out of the box capabilities within ServiceNow to help protect your ServiceNow instance.
Awesome, thanks, Will. And one thing to note, Will did mention it a little bit earlier, but if you do have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section and not the chat. It's easier for us to manage there. And also, the recording of this webinar will be available in about a week on the Now community site, and we'll share that in the link. We'll share that link in the chat as well. So we've got to do this piece before every presentation, right? Our safe harbor notice for any forward-looking statements. Just a little housekeeping, right? So this presentation may contain forward-looking statements that reflect the current beliefs of ServiceNow and are based on current information available. These forward-looking statements should not be relied upon to make purchasing decisions. Really, for this presentation, we're going to be talking about everything that's already in the platform. Usually this statement is for when we talk roadmap for product, which we will not be talking about today for the most part. So, but we do just have to put that in there for housekeeping. So we'll start off with two poll questions, right? And we'll keep these up for a little bit. Poll question one, which of the following personas do you most closely align with? Now platform architect, a security architect, sales, or something else. And then poll question two, how many years of experience do you have working with the Now platform? No experience, less than a year, 1 to 3 years, or over 3 years. And we'll leave that up for a little while, and we'll just pause here for a second as we get results in. We've got a few coming in showing Now platform architects. A lot of platform architects, some security architects, a few folks in the other roles.
We got lots of experience, a lot of over 3 years. Phenomenal.
Yeah, lots of over 3 years. Tons of Now platform architects.
All right. Do you want to?
Yeah, should we end that?
Yep.
End that
Looks good.
poll and share the results real quick. So yeah, we can see a ton of platform architects here, a security architect, some folks in other roles, and then lots of folks with over 3 years experience.
And I would love to know too if you're one of the people that other. Again, don't feel like you have to broadcast who you are, but love to know what kind of roles you're in as well that we're not representing here, just so we can make sure we hit the mark for you and for future conversations as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Will. So another bit of housekeeping up front. We like to talk about the shared responsibility model, right? This is for now and really any SaaS platform. Security is a partnership between the SaaS provider and the customer, both with specific responsibilities. And ServiceNow provides customers with a secure cloud and the tools to secure your instance and workflows, right? ServiceNow
Mhm.
provides its customers with extensive capabilities to configure your instances to meet your own security policies and requirements. However, overall security responsibilities are shared between customers, ServiceNow, and the data center providers. This table shows a list of key responsibilities in the ServiceNow shared responsibility model. If you notice on the left, there's a link there, and so when you get this presentation, after it's all said and done, you can click that link and download the shared responsibility model and some more detailed descriptions on exactly what it means. But really, if we had to roll this up into three different categories, right? There is certainly some overlap, but if we look over here at the co-location data center, just to lump it into a category, they would be mostly responsible for physical security, right? Although again, there is some overlap with ServiceNow having some responsibility there. And then from a ServiceNow perspective, if I had to lump it into a broad category, we are going to secure everything from an infrastructure, the backend infrastructure, to the secure code that creates your instance. And that's what ServiceNow would be responsible for. And then again, some overlap, but then the customer would be responsible essentially as the gatekeeper to your ServiceNow instance with authentication and authorization. Once your users are logged into your instance, right, what resources are they getting access to? Do you want to encrypt data at rest? That's also a decision the customer makes. Um, Again, just a broad categorization, but please do download this shared responsibility model here with this link. So today, again, we're going to be talking about configurables within your ServiceNow instance, but there are kind of three categories we in the Office of the CISO talk about when it comes to securing the platform. The first one is invisibles, and that's something that customers don't have to deal with at all, right? Business continuity and disaster recovery. We talked about physical security and infrastructure, vulnerability and patch management, the secure software development lifecycle, and maintaining our certifications and attestations globally for those regulatory frameworks that we adhere to. Uh, for configurables, that's what we'll be talking about today. Again, restricting access to your ServiceNow instance with authentication, restricting access within the instance, right? Who are you authorizing to see specific data sets within your instance? We'll talk about data and privacy, logging and monitoring, hardening your instance, as well as encryption. And then there are over here enhanceables. We're not going to touch on this today. This is more of a subscription model. You can see here Zero Trust, Log Export, and on down the line. These are all wrapped up in what we call the Vault bundle. You can certainly reach out to your ServiceNow account team and ask about that. They're just capabilities to kind of enhance and mature areas of customer responsibility with that shared responsibility model. We'll touch a little bit on it today, but not too much. So within the configurables, we'll talk about six kind of separate categories today. First, again, restricting access to the application or authentication, and then restricting access within the application authorization. There's a number of different mechanisms we use to do that, and we're going to talk through some of these in specific scenarios that we see from customers that we help customers with, right? So using single sign-on, using native capabilities within the platform we call adaptive authentication, SCIM or cross-domain identity management, and then multi-factor authentication as well. And then for restricting access to the data once your users are logged in, we have a number of different capabilities there. Data filtration rules, our deny unless access control rules, security attributes, and then we have an access analyzer as well. And we're going to dig into some of those customer scenarios now. And first, as we move through these, you'll see screens that look very similar when we're going through customer scenarios. If we look up here in the top right, this is the persona that these use cases are built out for, if that makes sense. So there'll be a lot of now admins, but there'll be some security admins and other things. So just keep an eye on this up here in the top right. So let's get into it. First scenario, and Will is going to walk us through these scenarios. I'll kind of set it up, and then Will walk us through it. So, first scenario is my company needs to comply with our security policies, which state we must utilize single sign-on and limit local logins to individual systems. How can we help with that, Will?
Yeah, so this is a great one. So again, everybody, just to kind of reiterate too, we want to step through this from a maturation perspective. So this is really critical that you protect the access to the instance and focus on the enterprise controls that your organization is already invested in. And so, really, what we're trying to do here with this, with the multi-provider single sign-on capability with ServiceNow, is to allow you to fully leverage the existing frameworks you have for authorizing your individuals coming into the environment. And then, from that perspective, right, we use what we call adaptive authentication as the extension to help kind of try to drive how you want to apply those different controls and also restricting the ability for somebody to come directly into ServiceNow. So again, the goal here with this, right, pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but really important that every organization is using this because I don't know too many organizations that don't have their own enterprise authentication strategy.
Yeah, perfect. And then this last bullet here, where it's talking about the account recovery feature, in kind of a break glass scenario, if say your single sign-on integration is broken or your IDP, that is going to allow. Well, walk us through what that means, right? That's going to allow local login in case those mechanisms are broken.
Yeah, that's a good point, Johnny. So thanks for pointing that out. The ACR capability is built in. So when you enable this plugin, again, especially on newer platform implementation, some legacy customers from a while back might have to turn this on. But essentially, what this does is it restricts all local login access to ServiceNow. And then it uses this policy that it creates within adaptive authentication, which is core out of the box on platform, to determine the individuals or the role that you want to allow them to still be able to connect, but it restricts their capability. So basically, it only allows them to essentially repair the single sign-on, not giving them access to the platform at full.
Perfect. That's powerful.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's move on to the next scenario. My company needs to allow contractors and employees access to the Now platform only from trusted corporate network IP ranges. How can we help with that?
Yeah, that's a good one. So this is one that this I'll be honest with you, this is it gets to be a tougher and tougher use case as customers mature and how they're using the platform. But the benefit of this is essentially the ability to leverage adaptive authentication in many ways. One of them being, hey, I want to restrict the logins of anybody coming from untrusted network space. So, I mean, this is key if you have kind of a trusted population, if you're forcing your employees through a VPN or they're on your network and you can kind of control how they're getting to ServiceNow, this gives you kind of an ability to reduce that attack surface broadly and restrict access to just the trusted sources you know. Again, all depending on use cases and how you're using the platform. This is just one of many aspects we'll talk about with adaptive authentication of granularity.
Yeah, perfect. And like you said, that's a fairly simple use case. They can get more complex. Things are getting more complex. Here's one. My company needs to allow access via Now mobile applications while also utilizing that same IP whitelisting. How can we help with that?
Yeah, and so again, this is a great question, and John, this we used to get this a lot more in the past when we didn't have this capability, where customers wanted to restrict they were wanting to control their user access population where they were coming from to just again reduce the noise, but they wanted to use mobile. They wanted to leverage the capabilities of the platform, and it was a real problem because mobile devices couldn't be sent through standard proxies. So this allows us to actually build trust model for those mobile devices to allow them to be registered, but still restricting the IP space for standard user connection. So again, powerful feature add. You can use this capability right out of the box with adaptive authentication.
Awesome. And then the kind of last one in this series, again, a little more complicated. The scenario, the previous two were kind of black and white to either allow or deny access based on a single criteria. Here we're getting into kind of a little more complicated rules. And so, walk us through if your company wants to enable different step up authentication requirements for various types of high risk users. Can we help with those multiple types of scenarios?
Yep. And so this is again, the idea of this was to kind of build and iterate. There's kind of an endless plethora of different options here with adaptive authentication. And again, we won't talk about it a whole lot, but some added capability with zero trust, which is part of that add-on package, that really can drive towards those flexible policies. So what we find is customers have a particular policy for a contractor, but might not be the same for a regular employee, and that maybe they have different types of employee bases. Like I might have employees that have access to sensitive data and employees that don't, right? And I want to control or require things like an extra multi-factor authentication step up, just an extra validation layer for those high-risk connections. Again, the good news here, right, with this engine is this is the same engine that gets extended with our zero trust in the subscription model, where you can take more of an authorization view and extend these risk postures all the way down to what you give them access to. So again, key point here, right, is this framework is super flexible and there's lots of different use cases that you can slice and dice for your organization.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And then just from a capability perspective, it seems like there is some overlap with, what an identity provider could do as far as allowing or denying access. But talk me through adaptive authentication and how we can get more granular because of the data we have within the platform.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, Johnny. I think really the way that I like to help everybody understand adaptive authentication is think of it as the extension of your framework for authentication, right? So we still want you to use your single sign-on. We want you to be making your risk-based decisions at the front door that you've set up from an enterprise strategy. This just allows us more granularity when it comes to the sensitive data or sensitive workflows that can be within ServiceNow. So really just look at this as an extension of what you're doing today, but being able to apply application context, right? And again, we're not going to go super deep into the enhanceables bucket Johnny talked about, but this does get extended to with that zero trust and other capabilities where, again, if I want to get more granular and actually really get down into authorization level access based on risk or synchronizing with my SSO, I can add those capabilities too. So again, the idea is really just giving you that granular policy framework for ServiceNow specific context.
Awesome. So next scenario, I want to leverage Azure AD as an authoritative source for user IDs within our Now instance. Can we do that?
Yeah, so this one again, industry standard SCIM is standard across the board. Again, another thing I reference and recommend is customers that have identity management strategies, identity governance in place. We can synchronize with those providers, right? Whether there be your identity providers more globally or whether it's something like an Active Directory, doesn't matter. The key piece here is right, keep ServiceNow in synchronous and in sync with how you manage your onboarding, offboarding, your IT lifecycle, right? And this really allows ServiceNow, but also ServiceNow can provide input and context back to those solutions as well. So this is really a two-way street, and it really follows standard industry context. But a lot of customers are surprised they didn't realize this was there, and it can make your life managing these attributes a lot easier to assign permissions within ServiceNow.
Awesome. Thanks, Will.
Mhm.
And so the next customer scenario, kind of the first time we're looking at security admins up here in the top right, and the first time we're not talking about kind of authentication and opening that front door and allowing users in. Here, we're talking about kind of authorization and security attributes. So I want to build common conditions that exist for my business to reduce the complexity as I apply access related controls across the Now platform. How can we help with that?
Yeah, so this is an exciting feature. You guys are going to want to get familiar with this because as we continue to evolve in our access control journey, there's my plug for check this recording out or this session out every quarter or multiple quarters because every release this gets better. But one of the great things here is it allows you to use similar attributes. So actually, this top left pane is using attributes that we would use as well with adaptive authentication, right? So this can be authentication related. Now think about it taking it to the authorization level, like Johnny mentioned. So really the key piece here is being able to use that consistent set of attributes, conditions, and now getting granular and applying access and using those to kind of manage your access control list. So if you look at ACLs themselves are getting more complicated. There's multiple panes within it. Well, I say complicated, more flexible actually, because you're getting more capability set to apply what applies and invokes an ACL versus being just straight, hey, I got to apply this thing to this record. You can be dynamic using security attributes.
Yeah, fantastic. And does this work across the entire table space within the Now platform, or is it specific to certain modules?
No, that's a great question, Johnny. This is actually a core platform capability. So it's really meant to provide a dynamic strategy for the conditional risk elements or the context that's important to you as a business to then drive through access controls
Yeah, fantastic.
across the whole platform.
Yep. Fantastic. So another one for security admins here, and again, in the authorization domain, I need to restrict access to specific data to any user, including admins, unless they are part of specific groups based on unique conditions. What's the best kind of way to do this in the Now platform?
Yeah, so today, right, and I speak today as in right now, the current world of X or Xanadu. We're going to talk about another feature on the next slide. I will say, cautionary, this is we're going to replace this in a coming release here around the corner. But this is what's available now, and it allows you to get dynamic. So think about it, kind of the idea is I have maybe audit data within my integrated risk management, and there's certain evidence that we collect and I want to protect that evidence. So I don't maybe want just my general GRC admins or my ServiceNow admins or other people, right? Maybe to see this evidence, right? That may be good, bad, or indifferent. I can put a dynamic data filter in place that defines that data, that criteria, the record criteria, and then who gets access to that data, which is explicit, right? So it'll restrict to only that access. So this is a powerful capability. We've seen customers use it to help protect against maybe areas where I maybe as a Now platform admin shouldn't be purviewed to data. This allows me to put something in place that can protect that and use it against things like impersonation or other elements. Again, this will be expanded on with the Yokohama release coming in a little bit different way around the security attributes and the next slide we're going to talk to.
Perfect. And just a quick reminder for everybody listening, make sure you get your hands on this content at the end, the slide deck, and you get hints like enable the data filtration plugin, right? It is out of the box. There's not a subscription fee you need to pay for to use any of this, but you do have to enable it in your instance, right? So just a pro tip there.
Yep, my one last shout out for this slide though, before we move on, given the time that we're in, if you're getting close or you're looking at early adopter for why Yokohama coming, I'd maybe take a look at our next version of this, right, and move forward with that. Data filters are phenomenal; they work great. Everything pre. But just keep in mind, right, there's some better stuff that's coming with Y, and so we'll touch on that in the next session. But I just want to put that out as a call out to people that are looking to get started with this.
Thanks, Will.
Mhm.
Let's see. So another scenario, I need to secure some critical and sensitive data elements within our IT incidents table and ensure that only specific users and workflows can see that data. What can we do with that?
So this is new cutting edge capability here. This is available as of X or Xanadu release. So those of you like me wearing your Xanadu Pride, if you're on that version or you're getting to that version soon, please check this out. What this allows you to do, this new decision type field, is super powerful. So if you think about the platform and kind of some of the ways that it's been used over time, if you're new to the platform, it might be less of an issue. But if you've been on the platform for a long time, you've built a lot of use cases, you might use areas of the platform in ways that aren't necessarily traditional, or now there's an out of the box app you don't leverage. One of the challenges, right, is how do we provide access, right? What happened here is that we created a capability where at the access control list level, right? So this is the most defined level, the finite level of access at essentially the database level, will allow you to set up a deny unless, meaning an explicit condition. So if I apply an ACL to whether it's a record, whether it's a table, whether it's a column, I can be explicit with it. If I use a deny unless, nothing gets access unless it meets this condition. This is super powerful because there are, areas of the platform that have been around a long time, more global access because of ITIL and other capabilities, that this allows you to have conditional capabilities to apply security at an explicit level to something that's important based on a condition. Now, if you partner this with what we talked about 2 slides ago with security attributes, right? Now I have my dynamic condition set that defines the risk or the condition, and then I can apply the access with this. So this is super powerful because if you start to combine those use cases, which we'll do in future iterations of this, now you can look at things like, hey, if they're off my corporate network, I don't want to allow them access to this customer data or this specific PHI data or other things we're running in platform, right? And so this becomes a very powerful journey because as a customer, right, of ServiceNow, right, use cases are all over the board, but this allows you that granular capability to apply your specific requirements to a data set.
Yeah, that is extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. And so our last use case, kind of in this realm of authentication and authorization, I know it's been a long haul with this first section here. Um, so walk us through this scenario, Will. I need to ensure the right users and groups have the proper access while preventing unintended access to sensitive data.
Yeah, and really what this is, as our now admins, right? Many of you out there we know are on this call, it's painful, right? It can be difficult to keep track of how do I manage permissions, right? And so the Access Analyzer, again, free tool on platform for you to leverage as a platform admin, as a security admin, to get visibility into who has access to what, why somebody, as you're troubleshooting, right? This was initially designed as a troubleshooting tool. I can't figure out why, Sally or Joe can't get access to a record, right? Well, this tool allows you to do that. Also allows you to compare users, so you can start to look at consistencies across, roles. If you couple this with things like the SCIM we talked about, where you might be syncing group attributes or things from Active Directory, and you might be assigning permissions in ServiceNow. Dynamically, you're going to get this role in ServiceNow because you're part of this group. This allows you to kind of take it to that next level of looking at, what does this group give me access to? What are these users? How do these users compare? A user that might have evolved over time. Again, use cases to help you control access sprawl, right? And really be able to manage both troubleshooting and the security conditions behind it.
Fantastic. That's phenomenal insight, Will. And just to review what Will walked us through in those customer scenarios, one here, restricting access to the Now application, right? Authentication. Will walked us through some single sign-on scenarios as well as adaptive authentication and SCIM. And then for authorization and restricting access within your Now instance, Will walked us through multi-factor authentication, how to use that, specific ACLs, and dynamic data access filters and some of those capabilities as well. So in our next section, data and privacy, we'll walk through data classification and exactly what that is, inbound email redaction and that capability, the sensitive data handler, as well as security around when you clone, right down from prod to your development instance. And so we have some scenarios around those things. So first one is I need the ability to classify personal identifiable information data within my instance. How can we help with that, Will?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're all like me out there and you've been on the platform a long time, you look at the screenshot and you go, Okay. Well, so here's the deal, right? Data classification out of the box is a little bit of a challenge. At the end of the day, it's really meant to be a record tag type scenario. So, like we use this to be able to allow you to say, hey, in this table, in this column, right? We're storing sensitive data. Gives us that visual, gives us this visual auditable reference, quick links to that data. Now, this is a part of the strategy of data privacy. Now, I realize, again, we're not going to get into the enhanceables. Keep in mind, we have tools now to help you auto-populate this classification by doing discovering your data, and then automatically classifying it. So this is really just the static classification that we give out of the box. Again, it's powerful for customers to just have that visibility, know where that sensitive data is. In the premium bundle, we have products around being able to discover it, identify it, and potentially stop the sprawl of data as well. So just kind of keep that in mind. This is just one small piece.
Perfect. So, scenario two for privacy. My company wants to be able to redact sensitive data from inbound emails coming into the Now platform. What capabilities do we have to help with that?
Yeah, and I'm gonna put an asterisk next to this. So if anybody is tuning out and going, "Oh, this is like same stuff. I've seen this show over and over," please hit the pause button. Pay attention. This is X release Xanadu. This is powerful new capability. So this is allowing our customers full access to the data engine that we're using for data privacy. So the full paid premium product is not available out of the box. But what we're allowing customers to do now is have access to the rules engine to be able to define the data patterns, to be able to leverage what's out of the box, but also build your own data patterns and actions. Like, so I want to mask data coming in. And then, more important, if you're using the system to collect inbound emails to create tickets or do anything with that email processing, I can now take those same classifications I've built out, which, by the way, investing in that, if you license data privacy later, you're using that same rule. You're applying that same rule across the platform in broader context. This particular capability is awesome that we released this out of the box. I'm super excited because not only does it give you an opportunity as a customer to get your hands on that data pattern and data discovery framework, but also apply those rules to email at no additional cost. And that is one of the big inbound factors of we can't control what comes in an email, right? And if we're going to write that to a ticket, let's be very careful to make sure that we're redacting sensitive data that you don't want in tickets or you don't want being processed through emails. Super powerful capability. Again, I hope you take my asterisk and you go back to this point and you definitely play with this and leverage this within your platform today.
Yeah, that's really powerful to productize that and not have to build that out to make sure that you're not getting sensitive data in the platform when you don't want it. That's a huge feature. That's pretty exciting.
Agreed.
Okay, so next scenario. I would like to mask sensitive data within chat interfaces. How can we help with that?
Yep. So this is, if you guys are familiar with Agent Chat, you've been using this for a while. This is also used a lot of the AI stuff initially. A little plug, the AI stuff will be available through some of the other, like we just talked about that inbound email. We will leverage those same rules going forward as we step forward for the AI reduction. So basically, if you're processing data through AI, you'd be able to apply that same rules. This sensitive data handler is used out of the box with Agent Chat, right? And also gives you a similar capability. Now, again, over time, we're trying to bring these things together. So you'll see these merge. This type of capability will merge with what we've talked about with the inbound email and the data privacy capability that we have that's part of that paid offering. However, again, I want to reiterate, this is out of the box. It's configured for chat by default. If you enable it, it's got a lot of out of the box rules that can really help you protect those core data, those sensitive data elements from being inputted through chat and stored on platform, as well as essentially allow you to be able to filter profanity, right? That's another thing it does because, again, if you're chatting openly with customers, right, you can't really control what they input. So this allows you to have that protection layer. So if you're not using this today with Agent Chat, I definitely recommend that you have this enabled or you look at this. It can definitely help, again, alleviate the sensitive data or, again, potentially inappropriate data getting into platform that you don't want there.
Fantastic. So, last scenario in data and privacy, I need to exclude company table data from production when I clone down to development. How can we do that?
Yeah, so this is just a simple one that, again, I saw that there was a lot of now platform admins. You're probably pretty familiar with this. So really just reminding people that using clone profiles, exclusions, cleanup scripts and exclusion lists, like this is really important for your cloning. This is what we can do out of the box. I realize it's a little bit of overhead. It requires you to kind of set this all up. Know that this is also part of our data privacy premium product as well, where we can identify that sensitive data and what we call anonymize it, so remove it. So there are some more granular tools if this is a problem you're facing and you're not getting the granularity out of the cloning capability. Just know that there are some additional tools available. But again, this is really just a reminder to make sure you know it's there, you're using it, and you're leveraging, making sure you're scrubbing data or information that you don't want to be showing up in clones right at the point of creating that.
Yeah, perfect. And one other thing I'd note about data anonymization, again, that's part of the premium subscription piece, but it can be used where this, you're maybe removing tables of data that is sensitive, tables containing data that's sensitive, but maybe you need those tables there to use an integration. In Dev, you want to test that integration, but you don't want those developers logging into that instance to see that data, right? So we can anonymize it. There's still data there. The integration can hit that table space, but it's anonymized and safe. So just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, good call out.
So just in review of what we just did for data and privacy, we talked about cloning security with this last use case, and then of course data classification and the sensitive data handler as well.
And for some reason I don't have on that list, I got to fix it. The inbound email processing that we just talked about. Make
Oh,
sure
right.
again you go back and pay attention to that. Sorry, it got missed on this slide.
Perfect. And so moving on to section 4, logging and monitoring. So in this section, we'll cover security center metrics. We will talk about log events and then syslog probe export as well as log export service, right? Those last two kind of getting those logs off platform. And so we'll go into those scenarios now. First one being, how can I monitor critical security metrics to capture potential security threats? Up in the right, looking at both security admins and now admins as the personas for this.
Yeah, this is a good one, Johnny. So if you guys all remember back to the beginning when Johnny was showing up what I call the dot slide, the shared responsibility matrix, right? When we look at logging, right, it's really important. I'm going to reiterate on this call so everybody has heard it from me. You'll hear it every time you talk to me, right? But from the shared responsibility, ServiceNow does not monitor the application level, right? So when it comes to the logs within your application, what's going on, who's accessing, all that stuff, that is your responsibility, and there are a lot of ways to handle that, right? And that's really what this section is about. One of those ways is an investment ServiceNow is making in you guys as customers with what we call Security Center. So Security Center, if you're not familiar, was released a couple of years ago now. It's replaced a deprecated older product. There's a huge investment from ServiceNow's board down to continue to invest in this out of the box for our customers. And there is a whole metrics section, right, around different KPIs and measurements that we're looking at already. You can create your own and you can set up your own dashboards to monitor what's going on within the instance. So this is just one of many tools that are available to you, one that's out of the box. When you're not looking at logs off platform, definitely a now admin who would be more looking at the platform, this is a great place to spend your time.
Perfect. So next scenario, I need to browse various log events to identify potential malicious activity. How can we do that in the platform?
So we put in the use case malicious activity, right? Makes us feel good as security people. But at the end of the day, right, if you know admins are on the call and you're familiar with this, we use this for troubleshooting as well, right? Basically, all this is essentially is reminding, hey, logs are there in the stream real time. You can search the logs. Obviously, it can get kind of cumbersome depending on what level of detail, how far back you're looking to go, and logs are only staying on platform for so long, right? Whereas Security Center is creating KPIs using the powerful performance analytics and capabilities to trend and collect and create additional KPIs beyond just the data. There's these two put together are very powerful for when you need to troubleshoot and or look at real-time activity on platform.
Yeah, perfect. And just a call out. So again, these last two use cases were examples of viewing logs and events within the Now platform. And that can be used in a pinch, just like Will is saying, for troubleshooting and specific use cases. And there's a limited time frame you can do that because of log retention. And these are just raw logs, right? We're not going to be doing any advanced correlation like your SIM or your data lake. We are going to want you to export those logs there. So let's talk about that scenario, right? I need to export our instance logs to my on-prem SIM. How can we help with that?
Yep. So Johnny, tried and true, right? What we call syslog probe, and everybody that's been around ServiceNow a long time, you can cringe. I get it. Use this capability to push your logs. Well, actually, I shouldn't say push. Pull your logs from a mid server in to your in-house, and send off to your syslog server. Again, it's out of the box. It's free. There is no requirement for any additional licensing fee or anything on this. So it has been there a long time. It does work, and we have lots of customers that still use this capability. So just kind of reiterating, this is one of the core capabilities to collect those logs off to your environment.
Yeah, and really it's about, maximizing the value of the investment that you've put into your SIM, right? Again, you can look at those raw logs in ServiceNow, but we're not doing any advanced correlation for anomalous activity or anything like that. So we want you to get that value out of your SIM. We want your ServiceNow instance to be as secure as possible, and combining those capabilities in your SIM is the way to do that. So we definitely want you to get those logs off platform. And so there's another way to do that with log export service. So I want to export instance logs to my SIM utilizing Kafka streaming services. Tell us a little bit about that, Will.
Yeah, so this, everybody's starting to become pretty familiar with the Hermes messaging bus and the idea of just that real-time streaming of data. ServiceNow as well. So we've updated our capabilities to give us this capability called Log Export Service. It's available to all customers. It does require a SKU, so talk to your account teams. There's what we call Log Export Starter SKU, and so basically, at the end of the day, you can get access to this. You can stream up to 500 gigabytes of throughput. So your instance will measure that as you begin to stream, so you'll know whether or not you're going to, have any issues. You can purchase additional terabytes of storage. It's essentially ServiceNow storage, so that's why there's a fee for it. Or again, if you license some of our premium products like our ServiceNow Vault, as Johnny mentioned in the beginning, you'll get unconditional storage as part of this just so you can use it. So again, reiterate, I encourage everybody to go look at this. If you're not already using it, check it out. Again, smaller environments should be absolutely no problem to use this, probably with the free 500 gigs that's available. Bigger environments, you might need to look at updating your storage, but at least getting some of your critical events out in real time. That's the big differentiator here using the log export service, is this data is streaming right from the instance in real time. So not only is it more performant on your instance, but it's also more real time available for your response. So those are the key pieces to kind of reiterate. So.
Yeah, that's super powerful. And just to review what we talked about as far as logging and monitoring. So within your ServiceNow instance, these first two bullets, security center metrics and log events, you can take a look at what's going on there, and exporting those logs off instance into your SIM or your data lake. You're going to use the syslog probe export. That can be kind of slow. Think about it. You're going from your ServiceNow instance down to the mid server, then back to your SIM or data lake. That can take time. And so log export service solves that problem with real-time Kafka streaming, which, to Will's point, allows the correlation rules to trigger quicker, allows your response and your SOC team to get visibility much quicker and resolve any type of problems that may be happening. So,
Awesome.
and so instance hardening. So here in this, we've got two separate things. We've got security center scan and we've got security center compliance score. This is the primary place to view all things security in the platform, security center. And as Will said before, you talk to him or you talk to me or anybody in OC. So we're going to tell you, please, please, please go into security center, look at all the capabilities there. It's the best way to make sure you're doing your due diligence. For your pieces in the shared responsibility model, right? And so we're going to walk through two pieces of that here now with two different customer scenarios. First one being, I need the ability to scan my instance to detect insecure settings. What capability do we have for that, Will?
Yeah, so Johnny already pounded on you, so I'll leave you alone on the please get Instant Security Center up and running. Please be using it. It's really critical. But this is the scanner capability that's built right in. So it allows you to obviously look at the data. So by default, ServiceNow is going to be scanning for findings and items that we've identified that we think is important, but there are a lot of configurations that customers do with the platform. They use the platform in all types of different ways. And the beauty of this scan capabilities allows you to create your own custom scans. We have a on right on support. We have what we call the secure check that our team, our sister team, what's called our global security support center, they've released. They're very awesome AppSec people that kind of built out a framework for you as a customer to pull in these custom security scans and then build your own, right? So it's a framework for you to look for the configurations and the capabilities that you care about and be able to monitor them, right? So really that's the idea of protecting the platform, protecting the assets you guys put in the platform. Use these tools built in out of the box to give you that visual, to create those results and drive the workflow to be able to remediate if needed.
Awesome. And then our second scenario, I need to keep my instances secure by following ServiceNow best practice recommendations. How can we help there?
Yep, and so you're going to see as part of the framework that Johnny talked about with Security Center, right? There's multiple tabs across the top. One of them is we're always going to give you kind of a baseline security posture in the instance, right? And then there's going to be things that you as a customer need to determine the applicability and whether or not you can set those settings or should set those settings. And so this is going to be right out of the box, going to show you the things that we might think are high or critical for you to configure. Again, whether you configure them or not does impact kind of what we say the score is. We say a good baseline for customers somewhere in that 85 to 90%. 100% is typically not achievable because there's no perfect, right, in security. But at the end of the day, using this tool to help you keep an eye on your posture, identify after upgrades what might have changed. If there's new settings as you go to a new release, go back to this. They will pop up in here, right? We will show you that and we will help drive you towards being able to implement with the right recommendations.
Awesome. And to your point, Will, right? So no customer is probably ever going to get to 100%, but I think in the mid 80s to 90% is a good place to be. Is that accurate?
Yep, yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. And then hopefully you're going to be tracking whatever setting you can't toggle to the most secure state, right? You're going to have a business justification for that. You're going to track that risk. And so if there's any type of audit, you've got a justification for that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So again, reviewing what we just went through for instance hardening, please get in your security center and check out that security scan feature and the compliance score as well. Check out your current compliance score. And finally, we're going to talk about encryption. So, two specific use cases we'll talk about for encryption: encrypting PII data within the HR app and encrypting attachments just in general. And so, if I come over here to this first scenario, I need the ability to encrypt sensitive PII data within my HR application. How can we accomplish that?
Yeah, so we'll go through this section pretty quick because I know we're coming up on time here. I don't see any questions, so if you had a question, get it out in our Q&A so we can try to address it here as we wrap. This will be the final section. This is essentially using the column level encryption to be able to encrypt fields, right? So at the end of the day, I've got sensitive data in some small amounts on the platform. I just want to be able to protect that data. If you have use cases or you're part of a highly regulated industry or you're doing a lot of processing of sensitive data, this is not going to be enough. You're going to need to look at our premium encryption solutions, but this is core out of the box basic so that it can help drive those solutions. A last shout out I'll say to this slide, because this is our column level encryption. Stay tuned with why Yokohama coming right around the corner. We'll have a big update to this. The solution is changing a little bit. So it will be called field encryption. We'll discuss that more on our next session. But again, great out of the box capability to give you those basic use cases.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll just make a quick call out. Whenever I talk to customers and they're asking about how do we keep PII secure, right? It could be in the HR application or otherwise. all those conversation are always about data classification, which we've talked about, maybe the data privacy application, which is a subscription piece, which has data discovery, data anonymization, and encryption, right? These things all go together: column level encryption, data privacy, data classification. So just keep those in mind if this is something that's on the top of your mind, for keeping that PII, or could be PHI, or any type of sensitive information secure. And then our final scenario here, I need the ability to encrypt attachments within my incident tickets. How can we do that?
Yep. So again, we'll touch on this one briefly, and then again, with the changes coming, we'll review that on the next iteration of this. But at the end of the day, same concept, right? I want to encrypt my attachments. This just allows you to be able to say, "Hey, I want to encrypt the attachments on the incident table." Have a simple policy and use the out-of-the-box encryption for that capability. So pretty straightforward. Again, the use case is an ask we get occasionally. We don't get this ask a lot. Most customers are pretty comfortable with the core basic, and it's really, where do I hit that threshold where I need some more premium capabilities? So with that though, Johnny, we should probably advance on here and wrap up.
Sure. Yep. And so we just talked about those two use cases with encryption. I'll just kind of fast forward there. And we've reviewed everything here. You guys can see this again. We're going to give you the link to this slide deck, and you can, review all the things we talked about in these specific categories. We do have a call to action to get in. Again, this is probably third or fourth time Will and I talked about it, but please do get in and start using the Security Center solution built into the Now platform. That's going to allow you to do your due diligence with those pieces that you're responsible for as a customer in the shared responsibility model. Here, please do familiarize yourself with the shared responsibility matrix, and make sure that you understand that. This link here will get you to it, and the link on the previous at the very beginning with the, like Will calls it, the dots slide with all the little dots on the shared responsibility matrix. You can download it there in that link as well. There's the security best practices guide in that third bullet, and there's a link there for you to download that and take a look at that. And please, any other questions you have, something, triggered a thought in your mind, you want to reach out and understand how we secure anything specific, reach out to your account team. They will engage us in the office of the CISO, and that's what we're here for, to have those conversations.
Yep, I echo that last point. If there's anything that triggered your interest, you want to learn more about, you're trying to deal with, like, that's what our team is here to help try to guide you. Again, reach out to your account teams. They can get a hold of us, engage us on any of these different topics for you.
Awesome. Then we have one final poll question. Are there any other security configurable use cases that you feel would be valuable for you and your customers? And maybe we can work that into our next kind of webinar. So please, um, put that in the poll we've got up right now.
And anything is helpful here. Again, we've been doing this now for a few times, and we've tried to reiterate it with releases. So again, you'll see updates to this existing presentation when we do it again next quarter. So stay tuned for that. But if there's other content that's missing, if there's some areas specifically that you want us to drill in more detail on, please, suggest it. The best thing we can do is take a look at it and see if it's an opportunity for the future. So again, we appreciate you all.
And thanks, Will. So we'll leave that poll up for just a second. You guys have seen the poll, so I'll switch the slide there to our wonderful thank you slide. Just to thank you for your time. And again, we'll be uploading this. You'll have access to this. It'll be on the Now community site, and there'll be other resources for you as well.